Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing a standalone review of Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series, which started with Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I absolutely loved the first book in this series. I did do a standalone video all about how amazing that was, so I will link that down below. And I'm very happy to say that I loved the second installment just as much. The way that romance series work is that usually these are more companion novels rather than direct sequels. So even if you haven't read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, you can pick up Take a Hint, Dani Brown and get so much out of it. I really loved this story. It spoke to me in so many different ways, and I want to tell you all about how amazing it is. So first, let me tell you about the premise of this story. So in this story, we have Dani Brown, who is a PhD student. She is absolutely so intelligent, and she's gorgeous, and she's driven, and she does not have time for relationships. She doesn't have time for it or interest for it, but she does want some sex. So she prays to Oshun, the goddess of sensuality, and asks for maybe a sex friend, some sort of sign of where to find her next sex friend. And after a fire drill at her building where she teaches, she gets carried out in a very romantic fashion by Zafir, the very handsome ex-rugby player security guard. And this gets captured on a lot of phones and starts the hashtag Dr. Rug Bay, which is absolutely adorable. It gets a lot of press for him and for the nonprofit that he runs, so they decide maybe to have a fake relationship to help his nonprofit, maybe with some benefits for Dani on the side. So the first thing that really stands out about why I loved this story so much is the humor. Talia Hibbert is hilarious, and I'm very picky about my types of humor, but this one really works for me. There is so much banter and so much teasing and so much sort of laughing at themselves that happens throughout this. It's such a hilarious book, and I just found myself laughing out loud, very literally, so much throughout the whole novel. Next, I think the diversity of the characters in this is so great. I think that it's not very often that we get a pairing of a heroine and a hero where neither are white, but they're also not the same race and not the same background. So we have Dani, who is an upper crust, very posh British black woman who prays to Orishas, which are goddesses from Africa, and she believes in all this spirituality, and she's a PhD student. Then we have Zafir. Zafir is a Punjabi British man who is Muslim. He has played rugby professionally, very sporty, and he is somebody who is all about the sweet romance, very different from Dani. So the contrast between these characters, and also the contrast between not just themselves, but all of the other typical types of characters that we see in romance, is so beautiful to see. Another refreshing aspect of this story is Dani's sexual prowess. She is such a sensual person, so sure of her sexuality. She is bisexual. Her previous sexual partner before Zafir was a woman, and there's all of this about just her confidence in her own sexuality, which is also beautiful to see because she's not a skinny character. This story is so in love with how beautiful she is, how confident she is, and that is not diminished by the fact that she has stretch marks or dimples in her thighs. These are just all a part of her, and it's all part of her sensuality. It's really beautiful to see. Just as much as Dani, I love Zafir's character. He's such a fascinating guy. I really especially love his emotional intelligence. He is all about being in connection with his own emotions and helping other people get in connection with theirs. So the nonprofit that he runs is all about teaching boys who are playing sports to deal with their emotions, to deal with everything that pops up inside of them that so often is repressed. So this is totally going against all toxic masculinity and really dealing with being in touch with your feelings. It's absolutely beautiful. Another fascinating aspect of Zafir's character is his anxiety. He deals with some pretty intense anxiety, and he's somebody who's had to learn how to manage that, especially because he's gone through some tough times in the past that have been very overwhelming, and it's been a real struggle for him to overcome that, to learn how to deal with that anxiety. And just that role modeling of how to handle those sort of anxiety attacks, it's really done throughout, and it doesn't lessen him as a man, it doesn't lessen him as a character, it's just a part of who he is, and it's really beautiful to see. In addition to how beautiful each of the characters is on their own, I really like their relationship together because it is founded on respect and acceptance. Both of the characters really highly respect each other. They listen to each other and they accept what the other person wants and needs. There's so much in here about really taking to heart what the other person says they want and they need and accepting them for who they are. So if Zafir has a panic attack, then Dani's right there with him, helping him. And if Dani is getting super stressed and over micro-controlling of everything she's trying to do in her PhD program, Zafir is there helping her, making her dinner, supporting her while she goes through that. I loved that modeling and that beautiful example of a supportive, accepting, respectful relationship. And lastly, I think that one of the reasons I love this book so much is just because this is the kind of romance that I want to see because I relate to it so much. I have a lot of traits in common with Dani. You know, I can be very controlling, very bossy, very sure of myself, but also sometimes I get caught up in micromanaging, that sort of thing. And Sush, my husband, is very similar to Zafir in a lot of ways, where he is very concerned about others and really wants to take care of everyone, and sometimes can get caught up in some of these spirals of worry and anxiety, especially when it comes to worrying for other people. So I see a lot of us in that, as well as I think that I just like that kind of relationship where you have a very strong woman and a very supportive man. I like that kind of dynamic, and it's not something that I see enough in romance, even though it's the kind of thing that I find extremely romantic. So overall, I think that this is such a great story. Take a Hint, Dani Brown is full of laughter and joy. It's also full of deep emotional issues that the characters have to work through in order to find a way to be together. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline. There is a lot of graphic sex in this and also some profanity. So if that's something you're not as comfortable with, be aware. But I just thought this was such a great book, and I really, truly, highly recommend both this and the previous book, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So I hope that you will check them out. If you have read either of these books or anything else by Talia Hibbert, or any other romance novels that you think have great modeling of respectful, accepting relationships, anything at all, go ahead, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you.